energy saving بيقولك دايما أول خطوة للنمو الاقتصادي هي تقليل الاستهلاك اللي هما ال consumption goods، تقللها عشان يبقى يحصل عندك economy أو economic growth. ورقم 2 ال awareness تزيد، التوعية بالتقليل الاستهلاك. يعني مينفعش تبقى ماشي كده تلاقي الناس عمالة ترمي المايه في الشارع، فاتحين كهربا بالزيادة على الفاضي يعني. كيس تانية بقى نقراها عن ال energy saving كنا واخدينها، بتقول energy demand what would induce consumers to use less gasoline and electricity. عنوان اللي هو real energy savers don't wear cardigans or do they. اللي كاتبها أنا برنازك، بس مش كاتبين الريسورس فين، تقريبا في بيزنس داي ايكونومي فيو، دي سنة 2005. تقول بقى هي when oil and gas prices surged after hurricanes Katrina and Rita, President Bush appealed to Americans to conserve energy. He asked people to cut back on non-essential travel, for example, and to carpool to work. Then in October, the White House started a campaign for energy conservation in American homes, dusting off some old ideas like switching to fluorescent light bulbs and installing better insulation in attics. Some critics derided the program as a bizarre flashback from يعني قالوا إن هو زي زمان 1970, a collection of worn out ideas that evoked feelings of deprivation and gloom. It will be a pity though if an effective energy policy never gets off the ground. Much has been learned since the 70s من السبعينات about what works and what doesn't. Clearly energy conservation isn't what it used to be. There are reasons for optimism. One is that market forces can help provide solutions. Higher prices on their own can make people cut back. Just how responsive consumers are to price changes, what economists call the electricity of demand, has been the focus of much research. Today, economists believe that they have developed a pretty good rule of thumb for energy use. In case of electricity, which is relatively easy to measure, they have found that when the price rises 10%, electricity use falls roughly 3%. At the gas pump, a 10% increase in price leads to a decline of around 2% in demand. Consumer behavior can change quickly in a crisis. A study by Peter Rees, a professor of economics at Stanford, and Matthew W. White, a professor of business and public policy at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, provides some recent evidence in examining San Diego households during the California electricity crisis of 2000 and 2001. They found that use of electricity dropped surprisingly fast in the summer of 2000, within 60 days of seeing monthly electric bills rise by about $60, an increase of 130%. The average household cut its use of electricity by 12%. That kind of drop requires a big change in behavior. The authors found that households had turned off air conditioners in the middle of summer and had invested in new energy efficient appliances, among other things. High costs aren't the only force that will influence consumers to cut back, appeals although public appeals to save energy may be rid- ridiculed ridiculed by comedians يعني ridiculed يعني اللي هو يعني سخروا منها مثلا by comedians on late night television. Recall President Jimmy Carter's cardigan sweater. The efforts can have a substantial impact. Professors Brice and White found that to be true in San Diego, February 2001, with electricity prices capped. The state of California began a campaign to have households conserve electricity. It worked. It was clear by about 6 months into 2001 the public appeals were having a big impact. Professor White said such campaigns can have significant effects on consumer behavior. He said if they offer a clear explanation of what people can do and how it will make a difference. Perhaps the most impact reason for optimism is technology's role in promoting energy saving. From 1979 to 1985, in the aftermath of energy shortages, Americans reduced their oil consumption by 15%. The single biggest factor was a shift in car buying habits. Americans found that driving fuel efficient cars instead of gas guzzlers didn't stop them from going where they want to go. The shift also had a big macroeconomic effect, sending world oil prices tumbling and setting the stage for 2 decades of low energy costs.